Hello, ladies. I am with Ashley Peterson, who I love. She has helped me, as I said before, with both of my books, really taking that project, chunking it down into little pieces so it wasn't so overwhelming to me. And we could get it all done within my time frame. The first book was within the time frame of my due date with Andy. And this one, too, to make sure it was done when we launched, we had our National Pink Fix Day. So, two hard deadlines that we had to hit that really stressed me out, but once she broke it down, it was so much more helpful. I know Hillary can say the same thing on her end because Ashley, you worked with her and me to make sure all of us were communicating properly. Everything was getting done together. So I knew I had to bring Ashley on for one of the women business owners in this group. But even all of our lives are disorganized. All of our lives, we are not being very efficient. And I have to say that's the one thing a lot of the women, when I talk to you guys one-on-one, have been saying is because you became more intentional with your money, you're more intentional with your time, you're more intentional with your relationships, when you're on a sales call, whatever it is. So you're starting to think about things a lot better. And that's why Ashley helps so much, whether it's project management or systems with automation, getting things streamlined, especially when you are about to hire somebody or take on a new project or expand your business, get it to the next level. And she also knows all the resources out there. You know exactly what can help you, when to start doing things. We had a bunch of conversations before I hired my first assistant on how to do it properly, because she did end up leaving pretty quickly into it. She got a full-time job, but because I did the hard work first, getting the new assistant, she fell right into place. So Ashley, thank you for being here. I love you. I'm very grateful for you.
Yeah, Jess, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be able to talk to your ladies about systems. That's what we're talking about today.
So
And
exciting.
systems, not just for business owners, but systems in life in general, because everything uses a system, whether you recognize it or not. So I'm going to jump in, if that's cool.
Yes.
Cool. So I'm going to share my screen. I threw together some slides for you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Give me a minute here to get it started. So Jess, you can see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Cool. Awesome. So today we are going to talk about systems, why we love them, why we hate them, and why we need them, and how important they are in everyday life. But before I jump into systems, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Hillary knows me, so Hillary, hey. I live in upstate New York right now with my wife, my daughter, my 2 dogs, and my 1 cat. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I like to do things that get my blood pumping, mountain biking, snowboarding, stuff like that. I'm usually found with a coffee in my hand. Jess, you can agree with that if you want, because it's almost always in my hand. And for as long as I can remember, I've always had a passion for problem solving and figuring out how things work, but not just how they work, how to make them work better. And so that's kind of what sparked me to start my own business about 4 years ago. But I haven't been doing this for 4 years. I've been doing this for a lot longer. For over the last decade, I've been helping small business owners and entrepreneurs optimize their productivity on the back end of their business so that they can deliver more to their clients in a faster, more streamlined way. Right? And so to talk a little bit more about what I do, I typically help female business owners and entrepreneurs turn the endless tasks of running a business into organized systems and automated processes. This gives them back the freedom and the flexibility they need to not only grow and scale, but all while doing that, living the life that they really want, because that's important to so many of us. That's one of the biggest reasons we get into entrepreneurship, is to have the freedom, right, and the time and the flexibility, which feels like a joke now, but to really live the life that we want and not live on other people's terms, but live on our own terms, right? And that's why I do what I do. I have a huge passion around that, and it's really cool watching people kind of explore that concept once they become a business owner.
So it's true. I mean, I can tell that how much passionate you are about this. But it's interesting, when you first started speaking, you said we all have a system in place. And I started to think about all the things that I do on a daily basis and how probably bad the system is.
And it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to have a bad system as long as you recognize it as a bad system. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but like systems are everywhere in everybody's life and they just don't even realize it. So we're going to jump into systems. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about why we love systems and how we use them and how simple they can be, right? So a system is nothing more than an organized or established procedure. It's a series of steps that get you from point A to point B, nothing more, nothing less. They could have 40 steps, they could have 2 steps, but a system is a system, and it's nothing more than a succession of steps that help you get from one point to another. So it's pretty simple, right? We use systems in our everyday lives, oftentimes without even noticing it. It's just a collection of, oh, hold on, that's a misprint. But it's just a collection of steps, like I said, to go from point A to point B. A few of the things that we use simple systems for in our everyday lives are brushing your teeth, right? You put the toothpaste on the toothbrush and then you brush your teeth. You don't brush your teeth and then put the toothpaste on. That's a system. Tying your shoes, one lace over the other, underneath, you pull it tight. That's how you tie your shoes. You can't just throw them together and expect it to happen. Making your bed, taking a shower. If you were in the shower and you put conditioner on your hair before the shampoo, it doesn't work as well. It's the wrong system, right? So we have these systems in our everyday lives and we don't even notice it. What's cool is once you recognize it as a system, that's when you can start to really optimize it and then pass it on to somebody else. So for instance, if you have children, you teach your children the right way to brush their teeth. You're teaching them your system, how to tie their shoes, how to take a shower, how to brush their hair, all kinds of different things that we use systems for in our everyday lives, right? And so we're going to transition into why we hate systems and how complicated they can feel. It's just going to be real quick. So oftentimes when people hear the word systems, some of the emotions and things that I hear people talk about with that word and that association are feeling scared, nervous, overwhelmed, frustrated. It's crazy the amount of emotional reaction that people have when they hear the word system. It just gets really overwhelming, right? Systems are often thought to be complicated and confusing. They don't have to be, okay? They can be really, really simple, but oftentimes they're thought to be complicated or confusing. A lot of the common excuses that I hear from people about why they don't have systems is that they're too busy to create it, they don't need a system for it, it's just a couple of steps, or I'm the only one doing this, why do I need a system, right? All of those excuses are nothing more than objections on avoiding creating the system, right? So if you're too busy to create a system, then you're too busy to hand it off. How are you ever going to free up your time or delegate anything without having a system, right? You don't need a system for this, it's only a couple of steps. Well, it's only a couple of steps for you, but how are you ever going to hand that off if you go, here's, I'm just going to tell you what these couple of steps are. An assistant or a new employee or a VA is never going to be able to follow verbal instructions with just a simple system of steps being told to them. And I'm the only one doing it. Why do I need a system? Well, that's the biggest, craziest thought I've ever heard, right? I'm the only one doing it. Why do I need a system? Well, if you're the only one doing it, how are you ever going to hand it off? All of these reasons dial right back into the fact that you need a system, because you as a business owner, as a speech therapist, as a mom, as a student, you have so many things on your plate, you can't possibly do everything. It's crazy to think that you can. If you think that you can, you're wrong. And I'm sorry, it's a controversial belief, but you literally cannot do everything. And that's why systems are so important, okay? So we're gonna transition here into why we need systems.
And actually, I know for me, I tend to go super fast.
Yeah.
And those times when you really don't do this process often, like a few times a year, and you never write it down, and it takes you an hour to remember how to log into this certain site or to download something and then post it and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it ends up costing you so much time anyway, especially when you don't do it on a regular basis and it doesn't become second nature.
Yeah. Absolutely. What happens, and it's human nature. So if we do the same thing over and over and over again, we essentially go into autopilot when we go into it so many times. What happens there is you forget what you're doing. Your body, your body takes over, your brain stops working, and your body's just like, okay, we're gonna go through the motions. We know how to do this. Then, like you said, if you step away from it for a month or two, or even just a week, and you go back and you're like, why can't I remember how to do this? Or why is this wrong all of a sudden? I've done it a million times. Why did I do it wrong this time? And it's because we don't have a system in place. And that system is where, having that system in place, being able to follow it from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 is what eliminates the need to backtrack and to try and figure out where we went wrong, right? And so that's, again, why systems are so important. So systems and why we need them. Here's the deal. If you have a business, if you're a mom, if you're a student, and you just feel busy all the time, you literally can't manage what you don't measure. The easiest way to measure something is to have a system, is to know exactly what needs to happen in order to get this task complete. That way you can go back and go, okay, I have this task and I know it takes this much time. Well, how do you know it takes this much time? Because you have a system, and each step of the system is trackable and manageable, right? So if you can't manage what you don't measure. The easiest way to measure is to have a system. Having a system gives you the most important thing in the entire world, and that's clarity. Clarity is worth money, it's worth power, it's worth all of these different things. If you don't have clarity, you're never going to find the way out, or you're never going to stop drowning in being busy all the time, right? Systems give you clarity around what's being done, how long it needs to take, any potential bottlenecks, and it allows you to continuously make sure that you're being efficient and effective with your resources, right? Because a system is never one and done. A system is forever growing and changing and modifying just slightly, because things, needs change, people change, softwares change, all of these things change. So a system is never done growing. It's never done being put together, right? Mm-hmm. So having a documented system also makes it possible to outsource and delegate almost everything in your life. And that's both your personal life and your professional life. And I mean almost anything, right? So I'll give you an example. I'm a business owner and I work a lot. But I've got a family and my family needs to eat dinner, right? Jess, I think you've heard this story told before. So when I have to make dinner, I'm like, oh man, I've got to stop what I'm doing. I've got to stop working, stop my money-making activities, and now I've got to prepare food and then cook it and then serve it, right? If I hired a personal assistant to prepare food for me, knowing that it might take 3 hours a week and it might cost me 10 to 15 bucks an hour, that might be $45 of my money to get somebody to take 3 hours of work off of my plate. Now I know I can make a lot more than $45 in 3 hours if I'm working on money-making activities. That is an easy decision for me to make. All I need to do is have a system. I need to know that when this personal assistant comes into my life for 3 hours, they have the system that they need to be able to do and replicate exactly what I would do to take over that. And it's just a smart decision, right? Same thing with laundry or ordering groceries. If you get somebody on your team, whether it's a business team or a personal team, you get a personal assistant or a virtual assistant or an executive assistant, however you want to phrase that. If you get somebody on your team to take over a certain number of hours worth of work for you, and they have your system on exactly how you would get it done, then that frees up your time. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's a beautiful thing. You're giving up your money, right, and in exchange for your time without losing any productivity.
Yeah, that's something we talk about too, is money can buy us time or can buy us stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Where do you want to be investing your money? Yeah. And almost all the women, we're all so busy. We don't need more stuff. We need more time.
Yeah, I talk to my clients about a similar concept, and it's basically no matter what you're doing in life, you're making an investment. And it's either an investment in time or an investment in money. And you just have to make sure that you know which one you want to spend, right? So having a system, having a documented system will allow you to have more time to do the things that are important to you, but not at the cost of being productive, as I mentioned. So if you've got 3 hours of cooking you need to do, or 3 hours of cleaning, or if you have somebody come in and clean your house twice a month, how much time does that save you? Not just the time, but the emotional attachment to it, the stress of having to get that done, gosh, off your shoulders. It's a beautiful thing. But without these documented systems, it's never going to be done right or up to par. And then it causes more stress and more confusion, and then more time, because then you have to go back and explain or go back and redo what was already done.
Because that's always our excuse. No one's going to do it as well as me.
Yeah. Well, and that's because you don't have a system, right? That's just the lack of a system. Cool. So basically, there's 3 keys to using systems effectively. That's identifying, documenting, and demonstrating. Now, what do I mean by each one of those? Basically, to identify a system is to just make sure that you understand what steps it takes to get from where you are now to where you want to be. That might be 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 steps, or 40 steps, doesn't matter. But identifying the system and recognizing it as just that is part of the entire process. It's the very trigger of the entire thing, right? Documenting the system is crucial. It has to be documented well in a way that anybody can pick up and look at and go, I get it, right? Now, if you're documenting your system off of memory, that's dangerous. Because remember, we talked about going into autopilot and your brain shutting off and your body just taking over, and that's when things get forgotten. So what might feel like a perfectly documented system put together based on your memory, handed to somebody else, is almost always going to get the wrong result, right? So documenting the process as you go through it is only the second part of this, the three keys to this, the effective system using. The third part is to demonstrate. Now, what I mean by that is once you've identified it and you've documented the steps of the system, demonstrating it is going exactly step by step on your documented sheet. So if you have step one as, open up the web browser, and then step two is to go to google.com, and then step three is to enter your bank information, you've skipped a step. You forgot to go to bankofamerica.com, right? And so you want to make sure that when you demonstrate your system, that is exactly what you need. Now, when you get through step one and step two, you might think, okay, I've only got one more step, and that's step three, and then I'm done. But you might get to step three and realize that step two isn't done yet, right? So step two is so important to the point where when you think you're done documenting your system, hand it to somebody who has absolutely no idea of the system and have them go through it without you saying a word. Just watch, right? And as they go through step one and step two and step three, you're going to notice where the gaps are, because they're going to be confused. They're going to ask questions. You want to document your system in a capacity where somebody can take your list of steps, sit down and do it from start to finish without any questions and get the result that you're looking for, right? And so those are the three keys to using systems effectively. If you can identify the system, you can then document each step of the process and then demonstrate it perfectly and get the end result that you're looking for, then you have a great and effective system.
This is reminding me, Jen and Caitlin had a meeting today, and it was about organization.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the quote, what a minute of organizing saves you an hour of time.
Absolutely.
100%. I could see the biggest excuse is, well, I don't have time to identify, document, and demonstrate. But if we ever want to get free of that.
Yeah, my argument to that is that you don't have the time to not do this.
Yeah.
Because the time that it takes to continue doing the same, I mean, listen, as business owners, we shouldn't be doing things in an administrative capacity. We should be doing money-making activities. We should be doing the things we're good at, and that's it. Everything else should be delegated if the resources are available. Now that, for instance, I don't like to file stuff, but as a business owner, I've got bills, I've got documents, I've got client contracts, I've got all kinds of stuff that I absolutely do not want to even deal with, right? And so every once in a while, I have an 11-year-old and I go, okay, here's our system. Anything color-coded with a blue sticky tab goes in the blue drawer. Anything color-coded with the red sticky tab goes in the red drawer. And that's my system. Once a week, she comes in, she files for me, she gets her allowance, and we're done.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to train Annie to do that.
But it would take me, I mean, it might take her 3 or 4 hours. It might take me 2. But those 2 hours are now, I can spend those 2 hours making money doing other things, right?
Yeah.
And so these systems are so important. I didn't have the time to not have that system in place, because for 2 hours a week, I mean, listen, that's what, 8 hours a month? I can make a lot of changes in 8 hours a month. I can make a lot of sales. I can make a lot of fulfillment. I can service a lot of clients. I can spend more time with my family. We can go out to dinner now instead of having to rush through a 15-minute meal. Like, it's amazing how much time you realize you're wasting when you start documenting and delegating these tasks.
And we had Kat Secor spoke at our retreat on Saturday.
I love that. Yeah.
Ashley knows Kat. Kat's awesome. She's a health and fitness coach out of Vegas.
Yep.
And we have a very similar rule. So part of this program, we start with saving 1%, right? We can all live with 1% less of our income.
Yep, she has the 1% rule too.
She has the 1% rule, which is 15 minutes of our day is 1% of our day. So really, can you commit to just 1% of your day, whether it's to pick one system to document? They go, well, you can commit 1%.
Yeah.
You're really not going to miss out on that. But if you add that up over the month, you've probably created a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the systems that I'm helping people build are saving them. I mean, upfront, it's tough. Yeah, there's a lot of pushback in a lot of the clients that I have, because they don't want to do the work up front. They just want something to come in and magically wave a wand and then have everything be fixed. That's
come into my brain, Ashley, dump it all out, organized fashion.
Yeah, let me just plug my USB cord into your ear and we'll figure out what happens from there, right? But that's not the case. There is a lot of work up front. The cool thing about this is working backwards sometimes can be a really big nightmare, but working forward is easy. So instead of going back and going, oh my God, I have to document all of the systems that I have and all of the different things that I do, like take it one step at a time. Pick one task. And if that's creating a new system, if you're like, you know what, God, I go through 4,000 emails every single day. There has to be a system to this. It just doesn't make sense. You can do something. I mean, there's a variety of ways to document systems. You can talk about it out loud as you're doing it and have it transcribed. You're one step closer to having your documented system there. You can record using platforms like Loom. Record what you're doing on your screen. That way you can go, you know what? Here's the instructions on how I did it. I kind of talked it out, but you can also see where I'm clicking and see how I'm getting into these things and seeing where I'm putting
That's a good tool.
There's so many different ways to document. It doesn't mean that you have to type in google.com and then write down on your note that you went to google.com and then type out Bank of America and then, you know what I mean? Like there's so many different fast and effective ways to document what you're doing. And if you already have an assistant who's kind of aware of what you're doing, transcribe it, give it to them, say, hey, try to make sense of this, assistant who knows me pretty good, and then give it back to me so I can review it. Like use the resources that you have available to help you start documenting this stuff all like right away. And then as you start to implement new things, if you're like, you know what, I need to start posting on social media once a week for my business, you can go, great. I know this is something that I need to start doing. I'm going to do it at first. I'm going to create the system. I'm going to document what I'm doing, and then I'm going to hand it off so that I don't have to think about it anymore. It can be let's start from here and move forward, or you can start here and move back. But whatever for you is the path of least resistance. Because if you know going into this, that this is going to be a headache, you're going to fight it, and it's going to be that much harder.
Would it be, I was just thinking for myself, whenever I have a task where I'm like, mm-hmm. Yeah, that you just don't want to do it, maybe you start with those.
Yeah. So that's going to bring me to my next slide. Yeah, which we're going to talk about. So I have this exercise that I have most of my clients go through when they sign on with me, and it's called the 4 corners of clarity. Now, okay. Jess, you may have seen this because I helped somebody else create it, but basically it looks like this. Let me see.
Oh, that's cool.
Move my face here. Hold on one second. I'm just going to minimize this.
Can you send me just that as like a
Absolutely.
PDF?
Yep.
Would you be willing to share that with the women?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share this document and then the instructions that come with it.
Oh,
but basically,
awesome.
This is what I call the 4 corners of clarity, and this is a document that I created with another person that helps people get clear around what they can and can't delegate. And so basically, you go through the 4 corners, and you can see here that they kind of line up. On the left hand, in the green, you see the word want, and then from left to right, you can see across the top. This is a list of things that you're doing and that you want to keep doing, right? And then on the upper right-hand corner, this is a list of things that you're not doing that you want to do. So those are your wants. This is where you list out the things that you want to do, and either you're doing them now or you're not, but you want to keep doing them, right? And then underneath that, in the bottom lower left corner, you can see crossed in the red, it says don't want. This is where a list of things go that you're doing and you absolutely do not want to do, but they need to be done to either move your household forward or move your business forward, whatever the case is. Then in the right-hand corner of the screen, you'll notice that it says things you're not doing and don't want to do, but somebody needs to do them, right? Like posting on social media for your business. Sometimes it's hard to come up with content. Sometimes you're feeling a little vulnerable. You don't want to post a picture of your face. Whatever the case is, put it in somebody else's hands. But in order to do that, you have to make sure that you've got systems so that you know and are confident that everything is being done properly, right? If you don't have systems for all of the things that are listed here, you don't have to have all of them up front, okay? You can like pluck away at them piece by piece. But it's going to be important that you have a system for every one of these tasks so that you know that, number one, if you have to do it, that you're doing it properly every single time. And God forbid you get sick one day and you go, hey, assistant of mine, I need you to do this for me today, but I'm going to do it for the rest of the time. But for today, here's the system on how to get this done, right? Or you get sick, you're traveling, you're on vacation, you have a baby, whatever the case is, if you're MIA for a few days, your business needs to run without you. Having a system in place for all of these variety of tasks is going to help your business run more like a well-oiled machine.
I think this is probably good to do on a regular basis too, to kind of keep you in check.
Absolutely. I suggest that my clients do this about once a quarter. And this I'm going to talk about in two capacities. I think once a quarter, everybody should fill out the 4 corners of clarity, because we're always taking on new tasks and doing new things. And then At some point, you get to the point where you're like overwhelmingly busy and you're starting to feel burnout again. That's when you can take a look at this and go, great, where am I now? What tasks am I doing that I don't want to be doing? Who can I hand them off to, or who do I need to add to my team to make this better for me, right?
Yeah.
The other thing you want to do every quarter, 1 second, Jess, is review your systems. Because softwares change, systems break. It's the natural law and order of things. It will always happen. Passwords change, subscriptions change. If you're using softwares to do things, sometimes they change the subscriptions, what's included as far as features.
Prices change.
Prices change. There's a variety of things that could go wrong. People change.
That's a good point.
Right? So there's a variety of things that could change. So I say once a quarter, you or somebody on your team should test all of the systems and make sure that they're still the most effective way to be getting things done. Because sometimes when you hand a system off to people, they tend to cut corners, and then all of a sudden you're missing out on a piece, right? And cutting corners isn't always a bad thing. It might be that somebody found a more effective way to do things, but it's something that needs to be reviewed regularly, quarterly, biannually, whatever the case is, but they should always be reviewed because there's always going to be changes. Things are going to change. People are going to change. Passwords are going to change. Things are going to break, right? And it's better to be on top of it than behind it.
I think this would also be an awesome exercise for money.
Could be.
Things you're spending on and have to spend on, things that you're spending on and don't want to spend on. So yeah. We might care this.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do something very similar, because
for sure,
the same thing you can see, things that you're saving money for and you need to, things that you're saving money for and you don't want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
This is awesome.
Here. Yeah, cool. So that's all the slides I had. That's that exercise. Like I said, I'll send it to you with the instructions so you can share it with people.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions that you have, Jess, or that you think your ladies might have for me?
Let's see. We really try to focus on, right, we chunk things down and we do small steps. Yep. And we actually do accountability check-ins every Monday.
Great.
So is there a challenge or something that we can hold them accountable to? Like, what's one small thing that they can do for, let's say, next week? By the time you watch this, go through the exercise. Next week, what is like one small thing to just get them started?
Yeah. So I think one other thing that I have all of my clients do. So there's two things I have for onboarding my clients. Number one is having them fill out the corners of clarity. And then number two is tracking their time. And that's the biggest pain for 99% of people who are business owners or self-employed or entrepreneurs. They're like, why do I need to track my time? I work for myself. Nobody cares. Well, it's not about anybody else. It's not micromanaging yourself. It's finding out where you're spending the most time so that when you get ready to start creating systems and delegating stuff, you get the biggest bang for your buck up front, right? Yeah. The other thing, so I would challenge your ladies over the next week. So I don't know when you meet with them again or when they're going to see this recording, track your time and fill out the corners of clarity exercise, because when you're tracking your time, you start to really get clear around the things that you absolutely do not want to be doing. Is when you have to start and stop a timer that says, holy crap, I just spent 45 minutes replying to emails saying I'm not interested. 45 minutes unsubscribing to junk mail chains, right? Yeah. Not something that you should be doing. Create a system for it. Here are the things that I want to keep. Everything else, unsubscribe. Here's the 1, 2, 3 on how to unsubscribe to an email, right? So that's a system that you can create, and then 45 minutes a day, you no longer have to do that junk. But without tracking your time and being diligent about it. Like, so I can give you a free resource to tracking your time. It's called Toggl. That's TOGGL.com. It's a free online resource. You can download the desktop version so you can track your time online and offline. You can also put it on your phone if people are working from the car and stuff. But basically, track every single task you do for 3 days minimum. I typically say 7 because 3 days you're very aware of it. And so you're like, oh, I'm only going to spend 10 minutes on social media looking at funny cat videos today. But that might not be a real judge of time. So I say 3 days minimum, 7 days preferably, to get a good read on what you're spending your time on. Once you get done with that, you can take a look at it. The Toggl website does a great job of reporting and giving you really clear reports on how to kind of look at what you're doing. take a look at the tasks that you're doing, and then you can take that task list and start filling out the corners of clarity, because nothing is going to tell you more than tracking every minute of your day what you hate doing. I promise. And how much time you're spending on stuff you don't like doing. So that would be my biggest challenge for people is track your time for a week and be honest about it, because you're not doing anybody justice by being dishonest or lying about it or falsifying the records, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's only you reviewing it. But track your time for a week, fill out the corners of clarity, and then just get an action plan together. And if your ladies, want to jump on a 15-20 minute call with me to really try and wrap their brain around how they could use this, I'm happy to do that. So I'll also give you a link that you can include to book on my calendar. I'm happy to do some short coaching calls with your ladies.
Thank you so much. I'm just writing down your steps.
Yeah.
To put in the email. That'd be great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
For that resource, because you're a great person to have on a team as part of your team, and to help with this and to chunk it down so it's not overwhelming, make it doable, and be really interested, because I have the women, the business owners, tracking where they're getting leads from, so that we know where to spend our time and our money.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting as you track your time. When are you most profitable?
Yeah. So maybe if you want to have me back on, I have a whole nother lesson that I could teach around the 3 main components of a business: lead, sales, and fulfillment, where you should spend your time and what core systems you should have in place for each one of those components.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah. So I'll drop that seed in there, a little teaser.
I was gonna say, it would be awesome to do. I'm thinking early next year, maybe not too early, but doing a collaboration day.
Right. Yeah.
Something like that. That would be perfect for.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We should totally do that. Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording.